Well, hello. Before we get into today's little, call it a film, such as it is, according to YouTube, this is my 400th video on their platform. I know, hard to believe, isn't it? But when I set out on, was this like April 2017, that 400 videos later, I'd still be here churning out the same old turgid nonsense. Anyway, before we get into today's usually quite useless film, just a massive thank you to everybody and anybody who has over the years watched the video, interacted with the video, given it a thumbs up, made a comment, and especially to anybody who has, subscribed to the channel, old and new, whether you're still here or not. Well, you're probably not watching if you're not still here, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, a huge thank you from Dexter and me. And here's to, well, I don't know, will it be 400 more? Who knows? All right, on to today's film, which is going to be very, very exciting. No, it's not. It's not going to be exciting at all.
What did I say?
During the meanwhilst.
During the meanwhilst. No, I don't like that at all.
Well, hello. It is Dexter and me, and you join us just in time for his weekly bath. Oh, how he loves being scrubbed clean. He likes it so much, in fact, that the first thing he does after it is go and rub himself in all the grime outside, just so that that smells nice too. What a dog. Anyway, as well as looking after Dexter's hygiene, I'm a firm believer in looking after my camera gear. Now, I've always been of the mind that if you take care of your equipment, it will repay you with a better photographic experience, as well as lasting much longer. And you've got the economies of time then, haven't you? So things like, cleaning my camera and lenses regularly, even the sensor when it needs it, part and parcel, I think, of being a photographer as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sure that most of you care for your kit in much the same way. One item, though, that can easily be overlooked is your trusty tripod. Now, this piece of kit is responsible for holding up your camera and lenses in all sorts of conditions and in all sorts of surfaces and terrain, more often than not without a care in the world for it, until that day comes when you try to extend one of the legs and you're met with, at best, a horrible grinding sound, or worst, a complete refusal to cooperate, or your once rock solid ball head is now a limp, flaccid excuse and not fit for purpose at all. Now, I'm going to show you the steps I undertake to service my three-legged thing tripod, and make sure that I'm never faced with such a malady or a catastrophe when I'm out in the field, and why, after 10 years of use in all sorts of conditions and weather, my Brian tripod and airhead ball head are still as functional as the day I bought them from the shop. Anyway, first off, whenever I return from a seascape shoot or a wet or a muddy location, I always put the tripod in the bath and give it a good soak with the shower head, before spraying some WD-40 on it and then drying it off with some kitchen towel. You might want to wait until you're alone, though, to do this. No, honestly, I can explain.
That's it. I'm going to my mother's for the weekend.
Now, for me, this is the bare minimum of care you should and indeed need to give your tripod. But twice a year, and I think this comes from my cycling days, to be honestly, looking after bikes and stuff, I completely strip my tripods down, clean and lubricate everything, and then reassemble them. I mean, after all, what's half an hour to an hour a couple of times a year compared to forking out 350 quid or 400 quid for a new tripod just because you didn't look after your old one? Anyway, my goal when doing this is to totally strip the tripod down, identify any issues and clean or replace any corroded, oxidized or worn parts, and then reassemble the tripod so it works as good as it was when new. And by taking these proactive steps, you can avoid in the field problems or costly, repairs or replacements, and ultimately, I think anyway, get better shots and a nicer photographic experience. Now, you shouldn't need any specialist tools for this task, just a couple of Allen keys in the correct sizes, along perhaps a flat blade and a cross blade screwdriver. You'll also need some grease, WD-40 or similar, and some light oil like 3-in-1 or whatever. That's that sort of thing. These then are the steps I follow. By the way, it's a good idea to take photographs along the way to aid with reassembly later if you're not that confident. Right, step 1 is to remove the ball head from the tripod's base plate. That's easy enough. Step 2 then is to unscrew and remove the feet from the bottom section of your tripod if you can. Now, don't force anything if it won't come off. It's not the end of the world, if they won't come away, but you can risk damaging delicate, carbon feet if you do force things. Right, if you've got any threaded telescopic legs on your tripod, like my Brian, loosen them off and separate the sections, being careful not to lose, any washers or grommets, etc. Also, if your tripod has one, detach any leg that doubles as a monopod. Pro tip here, work on one leg and one section at a time, and once you finish the leg, mark it in some way. I use a bit of electrical tape so you know which legs you've done. Otherwise you'll be looking at it thinking, Anyway, step 4, thoroughly wash and degrease the feet, legs, and a three-legged thing calls them chicken lips, would you believe, along with the threaded locking grips, making sure to remove any traces of dirt or grit. And then next, thoroughly dry off all the component parts using WD-40 or similar to see off any water remnants, and then soak it up with some kitchen towel, that sort of thing. Step 6 then is to identify any parts that might need replacement and contact the tripod's manufacturer to order them in. Now, this is a great test of their customer service and support, and I have to say that three-legged thing are top draw in this respect. Step 7, apply a coating of new grease to any exposed threads on the locking grips or other exposed bolts. And I tend to apply quite a lot of grease to the feet because this is the area of maximum immersion. Step 8, rather logically, is to reassemble in reverse order to disassembly, obviously, taking care not to over tighten any bolts as you can easily strip delicate threads. Next then, thoroughly wash and dry the tripod head, paying particular attention to getting rid of any lingering water, because you don't think sort of rusting or oxidizing in your tripod head. Now, if there's any play in the tripod head, tighten down and retorque any loose bolts that may be causing this. Now, they may be hidden behind covers, so you need to carefully remove these to expose any hidden bolts or screw heads. If you've got a three-legged thing head as well, if there's any play in the head whatsoever, remove the sticker covering its base and tighten the three little screws that you can see there, and it should get rid of any play. Next, apply grease again to any threads you can see and reattach the ball head to your tripod, and then apply grease to the surface of the ball and work it well into the whole surface of that ball then by wiggling your tripod head around. Step 13 then, check and carefully retorque any bolts once more, and then you are good to go. A quick caveat though, if you're not sure of what you're doing or not confident, then leave it well alone. Just make sure to wash and dry your tripod regularly and lubricate any visible pivot points or threads But if you do decide to go ahead and tear it apart, another pro tip, spray a releasing agent into any old threads and leave it to work overnight before you start, especially if it's been a while since you last, serviced or disassembled anything. Now, if you got a tripod with trigger type quick release levers to unlock the legs, then I'd advise just extending all the legs to the maximum length, thoroughly washing out any dirt or grit, and then drying, again using WD-40 or similar to wash out any remaining water. Then thoroughly lubricate the locking mechanism's pivot points with some light oil and apply grease to any visible return spring that you can see. Remember, of course, to wipe away any excess oils, or you're going to get it all over yourself when you're taking pictures. As an additional step here, I regularly remove any bolts that hold the locks in place, and then clean and re-grease them before reinstalling them and torquing them all up correctly again. Well, hopefully following these maintenance routine steps will help ensure that your tripod gives you an absolute lifetime, really, of trouble-free service, and is one less thing to stress about, when you're out in the field. And at least, a clean, easy to use tripod is a much more pleasant experience. I realise not everybody is as pedantic as me, or may not have the time, that I have to do these things. But I am a firm believer in, really looking after your equipment well, and it will look after you then, in return with, a lifetime really of a hassle-free service. And as I said, if you've got a clean, easy to operate tripod that's as good as new all the time, then it's a much more pleasant experience when taking pictures with it. Right then, that's it for this week's Tech Tuesday video. On Saturday, if I haven't had a chance to get out, because I'm not on top form at the moment, then I will be reviewing my Fujifilm X-H2, because I've had it a couple of months now, so I'm going to give this a thorough review for you. If I can get out and about, though, it'll be a vlog, so I'll do this on like a Tech Tuesday then. Otherwise, as usual, stay safe, stay well, look after yourselves, your loved ones, your little pets, and look after your equipment. Really, look after it, and it will look after you, I promise. Okay, and be nice, all right? And we will see you on Saturday. Okay, ta-ra.